So we've spent the last week focusing on new vehicles. However, most of you, if you're smart with your money, you'll probably look at buying a used vehicle sometime. Um, except for my most recent car, I've bought used vehicles usually. They're typically a little bit cheaper, and every now and then you can find a really good deal on a very recently traded in car. So I bought a car one time it was my last pickup truck I owned that it was traded in the same year it was bought. So it had like less than 5,000 miles on it. And it was still a new car as far as the model year goes. But I got a pretty good deal on it because it was used. So the reason people buy used vehicles, number one, they're cheaper. And you can get pretty good deals depending on if you're willing to make some sacrifices. A lot of times, some adjustments are made for cars with high mileage. My dad bought a vehicle one time when I was in high school that the dealership had used it to run parts back and forth to St. Louis. So, I mean, that was the only time it was driven. It had a lot of miles on it, but it was a fairly new vehicle. He got a really good deal on it. And it was, again, one of those new cars as far as the model year goes, but it was technically used. So there's a bunch of different reasons people buy used vehicles. One of them, the biggest one is they are cheaper. They are. So the way this works out is we're going to have this chart that we use to kind of help us make some adjustments. There is a guide that is published monthly. If you can get your hands on one that kind of shows you what a vehicle is worth, you can kind of look up the options and make adjustments and figure out what your used vehicle is worth if you're looking to buy one or if you're looking to sell one. So just to kind of narrow this down so we didn't have this gigantic table of information, we're going to look at specifically two different kinds of cars, both of them 4 years old. One of them is a V6 and one of them is a V8. That's with regards to engine size. If you don't know anything about that, that's really all it is. The V8's got a bigger engine. It's more powerful, and that's pretty much all I know about it. But we're looking at two different things, retail value versus wholesale value. Retail value is what you could buy. You as a person, an individual, could go to a dealership and buy the car for. Wholesale value is more if like dealerships were selling vehicles back and forth to one another. Okay, so you as a consumer would buy retail unless you can find someone that's willing to cut your break and sell you a vehicle wholesale. That's neither here nor there. Read the problems carefully. It will tell you if it is a retail problem or a wholesale problem, and that is where you're going to get your starting value. So if we were looking up the retail value of a V6 four-door sedan, we would start with $15,500. Now, here we're going to have some adjustments based on things that are either come with the car or maybe in certain instances they don't come with. So let's say we're looking at this used car, but the air conditioner doesn't work. Well, that's going to have to get repaired if we want it. So what we can do is we can adjust the value of the car down by $850. If it has a manual as opposed to an automatic transmission, that is another deduction, right? That's why these are minuses. We can deduct if there is no air conditioning. We can deduct if there is a manual transmission. And all of these other things down here, the DVD player, the power mirrors, yada, 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 these are things that would increase the value of the car. Okay, so those would be like on the sticker price when we're getting a vehicle with certain options. Those are things that we would pay extra for. However, the air conditioning and the manual transmission are things that you would deduct. Okay, so just keep that in mind. The tricky part with the used car is the mileage. Okay, this table over here, a lot of information, but what we're looking at is typically what's considered average is putting 10,000 miles on your car a year. So this is a 4-year-old car, so if it has more than 40,000 miles on it, there are deductions that can be made for the mileage. So the way this works, let's say that we've got a car that has, this four-door sedan, right, starting at $15,500. If it's got 80,000 miles on it, we're going to be able to deduct some money off of that and pay $1,775 less. Where this gets tricky is if the mileage is over 100,000 miles. That has a base deduction of $2,200, and then like if it were, say, 120,000 miles, you would take an extra $150 off for every 10,000 miles. Now, out of all of this that we do, I think there's one problem like that. So we'll have to, I'll make sure to highlight that when we get to it. Most of this is look information up on a table and add and subtract accordingly. Excuse me. I tried to put little snippets of this, that table on the notes as I went through it. But I would suggest if you are in person, come see me and get a paper copy so you have it. If you're a remote person, do the best you can. I posted it if you have access to print it. That way you don't have to keep looking it up. Karen wants to purchase a 4-year-old Palomino V8 4-door. So here we go. 16,675 is our starting. 16,675. That's where we're going to start. It has a DVD player, so that is going to add $450 to our cost. I'm just going to kind of, as I go, it has a DVD player. I'm going to cross these off. It has power mirrors. I wouldn't pay extra for that, but a power sunroof. That's an extra $475. Right, so I did the sunroof. I've done the power mirrors, but no air conditioning. It's a fairly new car. Maybe the air conditioner just doesn't work. And most cars come with it anymore. So we're going to deduct a little bit for that. It has been driven 51,760 miles. So that allows us to deduct $675. I'm running out of room here, $675 off of the price of this thing. So I'm going to take my handy little calculator here, and I'm going to start at 16,675. And I'm going to add on my 450, my 250, my 475, subtract off the 850 and the 675. This vehicle's retail price, not the retail value, the value is where you start, the price is where you wind up, is $16,325. Okay, so she saved about, about $350 overall. Okay. These don't get more complicated. Again, the only thing that you really have to watch out for is the mileage. If the mileage hits like 150,000 miles, that's where it gets kind of tricky with the calculation. So we're looking for the average retail price again. So we're in this column. A V6, so that's 15,500 with air conditioning. Now what that means is that I don't get to deduct 850. The air conditioner works. So you only deduct if it doesn't work. It has power mirrors. So that is, looking at my table, $250. Leather seats. A power sunroof. And aluminum wheels. It's been driven 42,510 miles. So that's going to let us deduct $175. Okay, grab your calculator, 15,500. $16,360. Okay, that's it. Read the questions carefully. If it says wholesale versus retail, you have to change which column you're starting at. Wholesale values are a little bit cheaper. Okay, take your time. The assignment's posted. It's a Google Sheet. Cells turn green when you get them right.